Hi there, Frank Flegg here, founder of Ethical Property Partners, where we help committed and sophisticated property investors to make annual returns on their property portfolio on a monthly basis. In this episode, I'm going to describe to you a property that I came across where I think most people would have walked away. But I'm going to show you after the break how actually I decided to buy the property and have since made quite a lot of money out of it. So the situation is this: I went on holiday to a coastal town in Yorkshire, and whilst on holiday we were sat out looking out over this beautiful beach. A neighbour commented that this beat up derelict property is actually a 3-bedroom bungalow, wooden frame bungalow, broken windows, roof had bits falling off it, and that really it looked derelict. It wasn't, sadly, it was actually inhabited, but this property was for sale. And I remember talking to my wife, and our garden overlooked the garden of this property, and we said, wow, wouldn't it be amazing to have a holiday let here? And then we looked at the property and we thought, yeah, but look at the state of the property. Anyway, I went and knocked on the door, because that's what you do when you're in property and you hear that a property's for sale. I chatted to the woman in the property, and it turns out that she had lived there with her mother. Her mother had been quite elderly, so she'd looked after her mother, but the daughter whom we were speaking to had been involved in a car accident many years before and didn't have all of her mental capacity, so the two of them had kind of looked after each other. And she explained that her brother-in-law was dealing with the sale, and she gave us his number. She actually said it had been sold already, the property had been sold. And I think a lot of people would have given up at that point, but I phoned the brother or the brother-in-law. I phoned him and just explained. I said, look, we're on holiday, we've heard that your property's for sale, I'm interested in buying it, what's the situation? And he said, the property has been sold, we've had an offer accepted, and we're selling the property to someone else. I asked how much they were selling it for. He said £150,000. Now, to give you a bit of an insight, the plot is a large plot. It's probably 25 metres wide, around 25 metres wide, maybe 23 metres wide, and it's about 80, maybe 90 metres long, so quite a large plot, and it looks out over a beach and over the sea, so it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, slightly elevated. I thought to myself, how can I turn this into a deal? The property's sold. That's probably market value for it. It probably was market value for the property, maybe a little bit below, and it's a great opportunity. What would you have done in that situation? How would you have negotiated the deal? What would you have said to the vendor? How would you have structured the deal? How would you have made it? No money down, because that's what I aim for every deal to be, no money down. They're not all no money down. I put money into some of my transactions. But this one I didn't. This one I didn't put any money into. And how would you have made a deal out of it? I know that's not a lot of information to go off, but what you sometimes have to do in these situations is to fill in the gaps around the opportunity. I'll give you one other piece of information. So we were on holiday in this property. This was the one that was for sale, and the one to the other side of us had sold quite recently for £235,000, and that was a 4-bedroom house. Not as good sea views, actually quite substantially worse sea views. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the GDV, the gross development value of the plot, perhaps. So what would you do? Would you walk away? Guys, we'll give you a break. The trick here is for you to sit down with a pen and paper, grab yourselves a cup of tea, and work out for yourself, what would you do? How would you make money out of this? What conversation would you have with the brother? And that's what I'm going to share with you after the break. How did we turn this into a deal? Welcome back, guys. I hope you really did do that. I hope you did pause the video and write down how you would structure this. It's a tricky one. So the first thing that I did was just ask him about the situation. I said, oh, okay, so it's going through. Is that going through smoothly? Is it going through as you want it to? Is it going through as quickly as you want it to? And he said, to be honest, and this is all on the phone, my sister-in-law is disabled, as you might have noticed. She really needs to move as quickly as possible. We've found a flat for her in the village where we live, which was about 45 minutes away. We have to keep travelling over to check on her, and she's not doing well on her own. And this sale was agreed 6 months ago, and it's taking so long for the people to buy the property from us. We're quite frustrated about it. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I genuinely was really sorry to hear that. He said, but the problem is I don't want to restart another transaction, because if that takes another 6 months, they keep telling us that it's nearly there, nearly there. However, we would be in a position to buy cash. We could buy it within a week, certainly, and I'd be in a position to pay more than 150. I'd happily pay 155. And that stopped him. I remember he went quiet, and he said, really? And I said, absolutely. I said, if you want to meet, we can have a cup of tea, a pint of beer, have a chat, and see if you'd like to explore us buying the property. And he said, I think that'd be worth doing. I sat down with him in a pub, and he and his wife, actually, so the sister and the brother-in-law, and I just explained, I said, I'd like to buy the property, I can pay cash for it, and we can complete by this time next week. And I don't think he really believed me, and I appreciate that. That's a very quick purchase, isn't it? But it needed to be a bit more than he was currently getting, and it needed to be really quick, because he knew he wasn't going to complete with the other transaction. They couldn't get a mortgage on it. No surprise, it's a timber frame building, which makes it really hard to get a mortgage on. Not impossible. Birmingham Midshires would lend, for example, on a non-standard construction, but the bathroom was really tired, the kitchen was really tired, that it was infested with lice and fleas, I think it was actually. It smelt really bad. There was a lot of cats, and I seem to remember there was feces in the property. It really hadn't been looked after well, which was another reason why he needed to get his sister-in-law out of the property as quickly as possible. He said yes, you can buy it as quickly as if you can buy it that quickly, you can have it. I phoned my solicitor on the Friday morning. I took his solicitor's details, etc. I phoned my solicitor on the Friday morning and said, can you do this today? And she said, I can, Frank. I think she charged me double fees. She cleared her diary. And an hour later, she phoned me back and she said, Frank, I can only do this if the other side's solicitor responds to me, and she's not returning my calls. I've emailed and I've called 4 times. She's not returning my calls. So I phoned the other side, the gentleman and his wife, and I spoke to them and I said, something odd is going on here. Have you spoken to your solicitor? And they said yes. In fact, they'd been in to see her that morning. And they said, she really tried to put us off from selling to you. She said that we should stay with our current purchaser, that you were probably not in a position to buy it cash, etc. And I said, oh, that's unfortunate, because she's refusing to speak to my solicitor, which means that my solicitor can't do anything. They have to talk, they have to exchange the contracts, etc. And if she's not willing to speak, there's not a lot we can do. And he confided in me. He said, I think there's something else going on. He said, is there any way that we can do this without my solicitor holding it up? And I said, actually there is. We could do a personal exchange of contracts tomorrow on Saturday. I've never ever exchanged contracts on a property on a Saturday, because what solicitor does that? But you don't need a solicitor to buy and sell a house. It had no mortgage on it, and I wasn't using a mortgage to buy it. And so there's no legal requirement to say you have to use a solicitor. And again, you can see there's numerous steps here where people would give up, most people would give up. And so I said to them, actually, we can exchange contracts tomorrow. They said, really? I said, yeah, absolutely. I'll give you 10% deposit, so I'll give you £15,500 tomorrow. We'll exchange contracts ourselves, and then we'll take the exchange of contracts to our solicitors on Monday, and then your solicitor will know that I'm serious, because I'll have given you £15,500, and she has to act in your best interest. So that's what we decided to do. Now, in the meantime, I jumped on the phone and spoken to a few people to lend me the funds. I didn't put any of my own money into the purchase. I did fund the development myself, or part of the development, but the purchase was 100% funded by by one other investor actually. So I phoned around, found someone who had £155,000 to put into this, and offered them quite a high interest rate. I offered them 1% a month, which is quite high, but no setup charge, no exit charge, etc. And so that's how I bought it. I had that money by the end of the day, and this is the value of having people who are willing to lend you money quickly. I told them it wasn't for very long. I only needed about 30 days to be able to get my own finance in place, which I achieved. I don't like paying 1% a month, it's quite high. The couple came over to where we were staying on holiday. We sat down around the kitchen table, had a cup of tea together. They met my wife. So I printed off an exchange of contracts. You can download them from the Law Society website, a standard contract. I filled it all in, printed it off. We exchanged contracts. I paid them the money in a brown paper bag, and we exchanged contracts. Now, I did protect myself because I thought, do they seem trustworthy? They absolutely did. Salt of the earth people, down to earth Yorkshireman and his wife, but you still want to be protected. So what I said to them was, look, if you withdraw from the purchase, I can't lose my money. So what I want to do is I want to do a loan agreement that runs alongside it. So I did a loan agreement that I lent them the £15,500, and if in 2 weeks' time they hadn't sold the property to me, they had to repay the loan. No interest, but they had to repay the loan, because I knew that if they then tried to sabotage the purchase somehow, or their solicitor frustrated the purchase and I couldn't buy it, I could hold them to this loan agreement, I could take them to court, and it was a cut and dry loan agreement that said the money had to come back to me. I just had to protect myself, and that's something that I don't think many solicitors would have thought of, let alone many purchasers. Just to have a layer of insurance and think, yeah, if I went to a judge and said, this is the situation, I gave them £15,500, they haven't given it back to me, here's the loan agreement, I think I would have been rock solid on that. So that's how I did it. On a Saturday morning, around the dining room table, we exchanged contracts on a property we'd only agreed to buy on the Thursday and really should have been buying on the Friday, except that their solicitor had, been awkward to say the least. And that was a topic that he brought up around the dining table. He said, we think we know what's going on, Frank. And I said, oh, what's that? He said, we think the solicitor is in cahoots with the purchaser because we've found out that actually they know one another. And all of a sudden it became clear the solicitor was trying to slow down the process so that their friend could buy the property. Really unethical, could have got in a lot of trouble with the Law Society, probably should have been reported, but it's not how I play cricket, and so I left them to it. When they then went to their solicitor on the Monday and said, we've exchanged contracts, they said, well, you know, what about the money? Has Frank paid you? And they said, oh yeah, he's paid us £15,500. That's the normal amount, isn't it? And they said, yes, it is. The solicitor said, yeah, that's the normal amount. And so from that point onwards, the solicitor took it seriously. We were actually ready to complete on that day, on the Monday. By the Monday afternoon, all the funds were with my solicitor, the balance of funds. I obviously had a receipt to say to the solicitor, I've paid 15.5. Here's the balance of the 155. Their solicitor took another 2 days. We actually completed on the Wednesday, which is still pretty amazing. So we agreed the deal on the Thursday evening. We completed on the Wednesday. So less than a week, 6 days it took us to complete in total. Now you might be thinking, if it's so quick to buy a house, why do they normally take 3, 4, 5, 6 months? Well, the reason for that is normally people do searches. Now, local authority searches are taking at least 4 weeks at the moment, sometimes longer depending on the local authority. And of course, getting finance takes a long time if you're going for bridging finance or mortgage finance, especially mortgage finance at the moment. The couple came round, I actually helped them to empty the possessions they wanted out of the property. One of the things I always offer vendors is to leave whatever they wanted to leave in the property, and they left a lot because a lot of it was dirty, a lot of it was mouldy, and a lot of it was infested with fleas. So they bought a van. I helped them to load whatever they wanted to take to the flat for their sister, and she went within a week. We were still on holiday. We were still there on holiday. At the moment, you probably think to yourself, well, that's great, Frank. You've bought a house really quick, but you've paid over market value for it. Let me just give you some of the numbers on this property. It's cost us about £300,000 to develop it. We've developed it, and you'll have seen other videos about this. This is our 7-bedroom, 7-bathroom holiday let on the in Filey Bay in Yorkshire. The property we've split. We got planning permission to split it into 2 properties. It's got an adjoining door, so it's actually able to be let as 1 property, but we've got planning permission to use it as 2 properties if we choose to. 2 front doors, 2 kitchens, 2 staircases, etc. And one of the sides is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom property, and the other side is a 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom property. And so they can be let as separate units, they can be let as 1 unit. The combined value of those is, it's difficult to know exactly because it's so much more expensive than anything else in the area, but I would expect a minimum sale price of 600,000 for the 2 combined, and possibly with the right buyers 700,000. So we've spent 155 on the purchase, we've spent 300 on the works. We actually nearly demolished the whole property. We took down 2 walls because they were full of rot. We've extended upwards. You can watch the video where I've done a walkthrough of the property, but we've put dormers on the front, dormers on the back. We've extended backwards as well. We've put glass balconies on the back. We've really done it to a high standard. And so the amount of value that we've built into that, if we were to sell it, we have no intention of selling it, we're now letting it. It's actually let for this summer and all the school holidays next year already, so it's let 18 months in advance. That's how desirable it is, and we're continually putting the prices up because if you're fully let, then you're too cheap, and so the prices that we're getting for that are eye-wateringly high. I cannot believe how well it is monetizing, but of course Lady Luck's played its role there slightly. We've had the pandemic. We're actually going to refinance and get all of our money back out of it. The purchase was financed by a finance investor. I actually funded the development myself, and now we'll refinance and take all of our money out. It'll be lovely cash cow for us because it's let by the week. One of the larger of the 2 properties lets for over £2,000 a week at the moment, which is phenomenal. Now obviously you don't get that all year round, that's because it's summertime at the moment. There's an opportunity, guys, that I grasped with both hands. I didn't give up, even when I was told it was sold, even when I was told no, they didn't want to sell it, even when the solicitor decided they didn't want to have me involved. I still persevered, and here's the thing, I served the vendor. They were delighted. They were shaking my hand and saying thank you. They were saying on that Wednesday morning when I had the keys and I was helping them move their furniture into the van, they were saying thank you. We can't believe that you've actually done what you said you were going to do. We can't believe that these people wasted our time for 6 months. And that's the thing, if you snooze, you lose the deal. You cannot take months to buy an amazing deal. And the value wasn't in the property. The value of this was in the siting of the property, in the development plot itself. And it's important to recognise that I've raised the value of that area now, because these properties are 4-star properties. They are raising the quality of holidays that people can have there. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Hit the notification bell, click the subscribe button if you want to hear each and every time we release a new episode. If you think this episode would be of value to one of your contacts or some of your friends, please do hit the share button. That really helps us to grow the channel. And until next time, happy investing.